Hello and good morning to each and every single one of you out there. I hope today has been good so far. I hope you've had a good day so far. I was rewatching Under the Banner of Heaven the other day, and if you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend it. The intensity alone of the story is simply stunning. Naturally, I wanted to cover another eerie branch of the LDS that maybe some of you haven't heard of. Or I guess not branch, but story. Hopefully. Today, I bring you the Children of Thunder. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come from Murderpedia, True TV, the Daily Mail UK, and any others I'll list down below. If you aren't too familiar with this group, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, Mormonism in general, let's give it a bit of perspective, some background here. Founded in the 1820s by Joseph Smith, the official title, The Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, was eventually headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah, under Brigham Young's leadership. His terrible, terrible leadership. Church theology includes the Christian doctrine of salvation through Jesus Christ, and they follow 4 scriptural texts: the Bible, the Book of Mormon, written by Joseph Smith, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price, which was also written by Joseph Smith. So they're just worshiping Joseph Smith. And of course, we hear of all the things followers are restricted from doing as well. I found an article written by a current believer, and he explains it semi-okay. Quote, as a lifelong member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'm asked with frequency what things I can and cannot do. That's always been a little funny of a question to me because I, just like you, can do whatever I want. The reason that I choose to live a certain way as a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ is not because I'm afraid of punishment or to make myself look better than anyone else. I choose to follow God's commandments because I want to be happy, and I believe the commandments are the right foundation for helping me to be a good man. He describes each of the following in more detail, but I'll just brief you. Number 1, no sex before marriage and complete fidelity afterwards. Latter-day Saints believe that family is essential to God's plan, so we don't do anything that could jeopardize that. Number 2, no alcohol or drugs. 3, no dishonesty. 4, donate 10% of your income to charity and the building up of the kingdom of God, which I just feel like is more taxes. But they say they obey this to show their trust in God. I think it shows obedience, whatever. Which one am I on? 5, no porn. And this next one confused the heck out of me. Number 6, do not engage in same-sex relationships. We are taught that marriage is ordained between a man and a woman. We have great love and respect for all people, including gays and lesbians, he says. There are many gay members of the church who are very faithful people and are in full fellowship. They are welcome to come to church and participate in the church, and we love them just as we would anyone else. We also believe that the Bible's teachings that romantic relationships are ordained by God to be between man and women. And that's where he ends on that. I don't get it. He kind of says 2 separate things. I mean, from my perspective, marriage doesn't define a relationship. So does God turn a blind eye to 2 people of the same sex until they're married? And then what? Are you shunned? Are you no longer viewed as a member? Are you excommunicado? If you really, quote, love them as much, wouldn't you allow them the same happiness that you may find in your marriage? I digress. Moving on. Number 7 or whatever. Dedicate Sundays to the Lord. 8. No foul language. 9. No cigarettes, coffee, tea, coffee, or tobacco. He wrote that twice. Ha! The next one, no abortion, and finally, no gambling. And I've heard much of these before, as I'm sure you have. And to get to the good tea, go to Reddit. I'm not saying that these are all true, but ex-LDS Mormon members, believers, followers, have listed the craziest ideas that they were taught to believe by the church. C. Wills 23 said, quote, in seminary, I was taught that at some point in the afterlife, everyone that had ever lived will gather and watch all of your sins like it was a movie on a big screen TV. WTF, how did I not know immediately that I was in a cult? Waltz_Ruff says, quote, I was taught that the Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri, and that is where the second coming will take place. Also, quote, the fall of Rome was the direct result of accepting homosexuality, end quote. And my favorite that multiple people had stated, they were taught to believe that God put fossils on the earth essentially to give humans a hobby, something to do. I could go on and on. I implore you to find that Reddit subthread. It's kind of funny. But let's get into it. Coincidence or not, one of the youngest religious movements has a history essentially as violent as the older religions. Mormonism, or the Church of the Latter-day Saints, has sparked many debates since its inception in the 1820s. I could give you multiple opinionated guesses as to why they tend to lean more controversial than other groups, but I'm sure you all understand that quite well. From Orrin Rockwell, the serial killer and so-called angel destroyer, to the Lafferty brothers, which Under the Banner of Heaven was focused on, devout members of the church have gone on to believe that their existence is somehow the epitome of God's plan, taking life into their own hands. Quote, one by one, black duffel bags bubbled to the surface of the Mokelumne River on August 7th of 2000. The scenic river, winding through deep granite canyons and thick pine forests, is a popular site for Northern Californians seeking relief from the baking summer heat. A man on a jet ski spotted the first bag that washed up onto the riverbank. Curious, he rode over, unzipped it, and found a human torso inside. A few hours later, a marina employee found another duffel bag floating under a dock about a half a mile away. This one contained a head. A marine biologist discovered a third during a survey of an island in the river. 9 bags were eventually recovered, some even by dive teams. They contained the commingled body parts of 3 people, an elderly couple and an unrelated young woman, end quote. A few days prior, on August 4th, a worried daughter had called the police to report her parents missing, Annette and Ivan Steinman. They hadn't picked up their phone in days, and newspapers were starting to pile up on their driveway. A few hours later, another missing persons report came in. Friends of 22-year-old Selena Bishop called the police when she failed to show up for her shifts at work. Hours earlier, in the wee morning around 3 a.m., quote, Selena Bishop's upstairs neighbor and landlord, James Solade, woke to the sound of gunshots. A second later, he heard the footsteps racing outside and the roar of a getaway car. With a pounding heart, he walked downstairs, and through the door of Bishop's apartment, he saw 2 bloody and unmoving bodies sprawled across the bed. Panicked, he placed a 911 call, end quote. The 2 victims were Valerian Bishop, Selena's mother, and her friend/partner, James Gamble. They had just been house-sitting for Selena that night when it happened. They were each shot point blank. Alright, so August 4th is already an insane day, but one last crucial thing happens. Quote, that same day, Kay Shaman returned home and saw her mysterious neighbors in a truck that was towing a trailer with jet skis. There were duffel bags in the truck bed, and another on the lap of the man sitting in the passenger seat, end quote. Now, are those the same duffel bags found a few days later floating in the river containing human remains, or just a massive coinkydink? So just to recap, I know that's a lot of information. On August 4th, a man awoke to the sound of gunshots and found 2 murdered people in Selena Bishop's apartment, one being her mother and the other her friend. Then, Ivan and Annette Steinman were reported missing by their daughter. Following this, Selena Bishop was reported missing by her friends. And finally, a report of suspicious neighbors with jet skis and one too many duffel bags. Whew! 2 days later, on Sunday, August 6th, the Steinmans' Chevy minivan was found in an industrial neighborhood in Oakland, California. A chainsaw and a sawhorse were found inside the vehicle, and police lifted the fingerprints of one Justin Helzer and Don Godman from the vehicle. This was their first real break in the multiple cases at play. The next morning, a Monday, police followed their second lead. Selena Bishop had mentioned to her coworkers a mysterious man named Jordan that she'd been dating at the time. Able to pin down this address, they obtained a search warrant for that apartment. Investigators were hoping to find some sort of connection to the gun that was used to kill Selena's mom and partner. Quote, all the tenants were at home when they knocked on the door. When the deputies swept the house, they found ecstasy, hallucinogenic mushrooms, and drug paraphernalia, but no gun, end quote. The 3 tenants in question, Glenn Taylor Helzer, who was 30, his brother Justin Helzer, who's 28, and Justin's girlfriend, Dawn Godman, 26. Turns out Jordan was actually Taylor Helzer. They were each arrested and put in cuffs on charges of drug possession. Okay, a bit of backstory. According to Julia's article, no one who knew the Helzer boys as children suspected that they would grow up to be such callous people. Raised by devout Mormon parents in Martinez, a cozy town 50 minutes drive northeast of San Fran, the Helzers had a relatively normal childhood. Glenn Helzer, who went by his middle name Taylor, was the charming and gregarious older brother. Justin was more introverted, but he was a member of his high school wrestling team and youth group leader at his church. Justin looked up to his older brother and actively sought his approval. Taylor encouraged these feelings in him, frequently telling him, quote, I'm number 1 and you're number 2. After graduating high school, the boys fulfilled the Mormon requirement of completing 2 years in the mission field. Taylor went to Brazil and Justin to Texas. When they returned to California, Justin got work as a cable installer and Taylor as a stockbroker at Morgan Stanley in San Francisco. And then they met Dawn. An outcast by anyone's definition, they lauded her with attention and preached to her about their religion, Mormonism, LDS, and God. Eventually, Taylor, here's where it all takes a turn for his worst. Glenn, or Taylor, he used his charm to convince his brother and Dawn that he was a prophet. And they believed him. And so the two became a trio. Okay, back to the present day. August 7th, as the police are arresting these 3 on drug charges in their apartment. Taylor attempted to flee the scene while still in handcuffs, but was apprehended again a mere 7 blocks away. Okay, I know I've said a lot. I'm sorry, but if you remember, this is the same day that the duffel bags started popping up, August 7th. After catching the runner, apprehending all 3, police researched the residence and found a whole buttload more. According to Mrs. Shear's article, investigators found a videotaped newscast about Bishop's disappearance, as well as evidence linking the trio to the Steinman disappearance. They also found handcuffs and leg irons in Justin's pickup, which didn't bode well for anyone. A simple drug charge, possibly stemming into multiple murder charges. Quote, later that day, the first 2 duffel bags, like I said, one containing a human head, the other torso, floated to the surface of the river. After the rest of the bags were recovered, experts at the Contra Costa County Crime Lab used DNA analysis to identify the victims, which confirmed preliminary findings made using dental records. They were the remains of Annette, Ivan, and Selena Bishop, if you hadn't already pieced that together. I'm sure you had. Sorting through the remains took a high emotional toll on the law enforcement officials in the largely agricultural Sacramento County, where such ghastly crimes are extremely rare. County Coroner Paul Smith told the Chronicle, "The remains we have found have been dismembered and commingled in the bags. It's horrific." Okay, but why? What do those 3 people arrested have to do with the killing of 5 people who aren't all entirely connected? What's what here? At a 2-week preliminary hearing in December of 2001 in the Contra Costa County Superior Court, prosecutors carefully laid out their case. The physical evidence included receipts for a handheld power saw, shackles bought at a sex shop, ski masks bought from a sporting goods store, as well as several, quote, plans of action written by Taylor Helzer that detailed an extortion scheme. They charged all 3 roommates with 18 felonies, including murder, extortion, and kidnapping. So it was money all along. Well, kind of. According to the Daily Mail, in 2000, Taylor Helzer and his 2 accomplices concocted a plot to train Brazilian orphans to massacre the leaders of the Mormon Church, so that he could become its leader and, quote, transform America by bringing joy, peace, and love. The conspirators, who called themselves the Children of Thunder, needed money to carry out this bizarre plan, insane plan, so they decided to extort one of Taylor Helzer's former clients, Ivan Steinman, in the hopes of getting $100,000. The 3 had approached the Steinman home, and knowing one of the brothers, let them in. Without getting into all of the details, the brothers led the couple to the bathroom, where Justin bashed Ivan Steinman's head against the tile floor, and Taylor slit Annette's throat with a hunting knife, as Don Godman watched. Ivan was 85, and his wife was 78 years old. So now they have their $100,000, but they also needed someone to launder it. The murderous siblings, accompanied by their former roommate Don Godman, then killed Selena Bishop to silence her after she collected the money on their behalf, not knowing about this homicidal plot. Selena's death was cruel. Taylor brought her home and started to rub her back as she closed her eyes. Whatever she was thinking as she lay on that carpet that night, she didn't know what hit her, as his brother Justin slammed a hammer into her head several times, cracking her skull. Taylor then slit her throat. The bodies of Selena Bishop and the Steinmans were dismembered and stuffed into 9 black duffel bags, which were later fished out by the divers of the Sacramento San Joaquin River Delta. Taylor later shot dead Bishop's mother, 45-year-old Valerian, and her boyfriend, James Gamble, for fear that they had known too much, I guess. Quote, on June 16th, a jury convicted Justin Helzer of 11 counts, including murder, extortion, and kidnapping for his role in the killings. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. His defense lawyer tried to portray him as the mentally ill follower of a domineering older brother. A psychiatrist who interviewed Justin in jail told the court that Justin sincerely believed his brother Taylor was a prophet of God, and that Justin, quote, was not able to comprehend that the homicides he committed were morally wrong. The ploy failed. On August 4th of 2004, 4 years to the day that the last victims were murdered, Justin Helzer was sentenced to death for 3 of the murders he committed and life in prison for his role in the other 2. On December 15th of 2004, another jury handed down 5 death sentences for Taylor Helzer. He comforted his attorney as the first verdict was read, according to the Chronicle, telling her, quote, it's okay. That's creepy. As for Don Godman, in exchange for pleading guilty and testifying against the brothers, she received 38 years to life. And in 2013, Justin Helzer was found dead, hanging in his cell from an apparent suicide. Trigger warning, he did try one time previously by taking 2 5-inch pens and plunging them into each of his eye sockets, blinding him and partially paralyzing himself. And that, my friends, is the disturbing story of the Helzer brothers, aka the Children of Thunder. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Sorry if it felt like I was hating on Mormons in the beginning. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe just a little bit. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for coming back each week. If you'd like, stick around for a bonus bit after the music. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Hello again. Thanks for hanging out. This is something I came across. I was looking for an article. This is something I found interesting and hopefully will lead to more cases getting solved. Titled, Newport, New Hampshire Evidence Search Related to Cases Linked to So-Called Connecticut River Valley Serial Killer. Written by Hannah Cotter of WMUR.com. Wimmer. The search for physical evidence underway Tuesday in Newport, New Hampshire is related to the investigation into multiple cold cases popularly linked to the so-called Connecticut River Valley serial killer. Investigators began executing court-authorized search warrants on Tuesday morning in the Kellyville neighborhood of Newport, including a home on Ayers Street. There were more than a dozen cars parked along the dead-end street, and dozens of trash bags were seen piled up outside what appeared to be a barn. It's not known whether the trash bags are related to the search or not. Officials would not say what cold case the search was related to, but sources said the search is related to a series of unsolved killings in the Connecticut River Valley in the 1970s and 1980s. Quote, "These are court-authorized search warrants that are under seal, and we can't discuss what cases they are," said Senior Assistant General Attorney Scott Chase. There are at least 2 unsolved cases with ties to Newport, including the mid-1980s killings of 17-year-old Bernice Cordemanche, and 25-year-old Ellen Fried. Bernice's body was found on April 19th of 1986 off Cat Hole Road. Fried's skeletal remains, meanwhile, were found on September 19th of 1985 in a wooded area next to the Sugar River in the Kellyville neighborhood. Beyond these 2 cases, more have been popularly linked to the potential serial killer, but cold case unit officials previously told WMUR.com they don't believe the cases are connected. Why not, huh? That possibly can't be investigated fully, though, until one of the cases is solved, they said. Julie Murray, the sister of Mara Murray, the Massachusetts college student who went missing in New Hampshire in 2004, told WMUR her family was aware of the search and said they are in close contact with investigators. Mara Murray's case has not typically been connected to the unsolved Connecticut River Valley killings of decades prior, but in 2023, Julie Murray helped lead a group of victims' families in demanding change in how all cold cases are investigated by the state. Quote, "We did a big rally last summer for this because there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in any of these cases. And evidently, the rally I'm short-circuiting. And evidently, the rally may have led to them to move forward with such cases, to start reinvestigating them and looking into them and not forgetting about them," said Jane Borowski, who was 7 months pregnant when she was stabbed 27 times in 1988 in Swansea. Jane's case remains unsolved, but has been, again, linked to the unsolved Connecticut River Valley killings. I'm sure whoever stabbed her thought she would die. Again, state officials have never confirmed such connection. Jane Borowski said state police called her Tuesday and told her about this Newport search and said that it was related to the CRV killings. That's so much easier to say. Quote, I'm trying not to get emotional right now about it, because there have been so many people and so many persons of interest over the years, and no real hard suspects, said Borowski. In a statement, officials asked that the public respect the privacy of residents in the search area and stay off private property as the investigation continues. End quote. Whew. That would be so relieving for so many people. I mean, just the 1, 2, 3, 4 that I mentioned there, but probably, I mean, sad to say, but probably a lot more as well. I mean, even if they just found a little teeny bit of evidence leading to that serial killer. Anywho, that is all I have for you today, folks. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to listen in. Truly means a lot. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you on Thursday. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.